It's an incredible setup here, incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here are warriors, and all have my respect. And I'm into this game, yeah. We'll be into this, yeah.
And we are live here in the Maverick Center, here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Folks, what a night. It is going to be historic indeed for BKFC 56.
Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight. Harry on the target. Right hand from my daddy, double check. Who's the king of violence? I am!
Combat fighting in its purest form, bare knuckle fighting in the city of angels.
80 seconds remaining.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knucklemania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this motherfucking thing all the way to the top now.
A new week starts right here, right now, live on a Monday morning on the early line on SportsGrid and all across that SportsGrid network. It includes sportsgrid.com/watch, where you can find your favorite destination and consume everything all across the grid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. We are here together live for the next 3 hours up until 11 a.m. Eastern time to look back on a full weekend around the sports landscape. Weekend number 2 of the National Football League preseason. And as we near the regular season, some decisions being made in quarterback rooms across the league. Today begins a week in which college football will be played as well. And of course, there is a ton to get to in Major League Baseball. Does anybody want to run away with the best record in the bigs? Will anybody reach the century mark in terms of victories this year? All of that in store here on this Monday for the next 3 hours on SportsGrid.
Yeah, it feels like baseball has about 2 weeks left in its season, even though we know that's not the case because they tend to do a disappearing act in September, then reemerge in October with some playoff baseball. And yes, we do have a lot of hot topics to get to in that environment, but it is week 0 of college football. It's officially been game week here for the network where we start with college football next 2 weeks, then we transition over to the NFL, and away we go. We love to see it here. So we're sort of, and I find myself this weekend mining for gold out here, watching week number 2 in the preseason, trying to get that lift like, okay, this guy's showing out. This guy's getting used in different packages. Which quarterback do we think steps up? So it's fun to get that ammunition ready for the regular season.
Yeah. The WNBA back into our lives as well. A quadruple header on Sunday where the stars in the W showed out in a big, big way. But we start with the news out of Las Vegas. Gardner Minshew signed this offseason for a 2-year deal worth $25 million after he was the starter for the majority of the year last year in Indianapolis. Gardner Minshew has now been named the starter in Las Vegas. Antonio Pierce entering his full rookie season at the helm in the Sin City has named Gardner Minshew the starting quarterback of the Raiders.
Had to be done. It really did. Now, granted, you might want to try to see what you have with Aiden O'Connell. I understand that. But Antonio Pierce took the reins of that Raiders locker room, and they see him and say, you know what? This guy's going to play the best player to put us in the best position to win football games. That's how you win over a locker room. Because let me tell you this, you bring in Gardner Minshew and he outplays Aiden O'Connell in the OTAs, the preseason, and also in the games that they have, and doesn't start because you want to get a look at the young kid, you start to lose the locker room. As I said, this is the reason why Antonio Pierce is the head coach. The players trust him and will play for him, and making the best decision, I think they did that right out of the gate. It's about winning football games in the National Football League, and quite frankly, I think Minshew will do a better job than Aiden O'Connell.
Minshew has that sample size, 37 starts in his NFL career, 15 and 22 as a starter, has started at least a single game in each of the past 5 NFL seasons. Aiden O'Connell last year thrust into the starting role in Las Vegas in lieu of Jimmy Garoppolo, played in 11 games, making 10 starts for the Raiders. Donnie, he was only really available on the New Jersey site of the FanDuel Sportsbook, but there were some odds up for which quarterback is going to start week number 1 for various NFL teams with that QB competition. It was actually Aiden O'Connell as a slight favorite over Gardner Minshew in Las Vegas, according to the odds makers. So Minshew, I guess you could say, pulls off the slight upset. And despite in the initial depth chart in the Mile High City, the rookie quarterback Bo Nix being listed as the third string QB, he is balled out this preseason, and he remains the favorite to be the week 1 starter for the Broncos. Shining yesterday, week number 2, in a doubleheader to end out the second weekend of NFL preseason action. Bo Nix leading the Broncos as a touchdown favorite to a 27-2 win over the Green Bay Packers. Nix, once again, DRS, 8 of 9 through the air, 80 yards in terms of his passing output, and a touchdown. Led 4 scoring drives in his NFL preseason debut last week. Looked darn good once again for the Broncos.
Yeah, and that's good news for the Denver Broncos, where now it's not like, okay, we're going to put a kid that doesn't look ready to play NFL week number 1 football. He looks the part at this point because he was sharp. Understandably, you're not going against very many starters, and it's vanilla defenses. You're not going to get the best looks right out of the gate. But if you do pop on the game tape, it looks like he belongs, and that's all you're asking for a quarterback coming out of college football into the professional ranks. And many times in the past, Ben, we look at players like, again, Mitchell Trubisky. Well, look, he's got the arm strength. He's got the talent, but only maybe a dozen or so starts in college football. That's not Bo Nix. This guy's been around the block. He should be ready to go, and he's proven everybody right. You draft that guy in the first round, it looks like he's going to play the part. He should be out there week number 1.
Got the start yesterday for Denver, led 2 scoring drives, threw a touchdown as well. 6 offensive possessions with Bo Nix under center for the Broncos this preseason. All 6 have resulted in points. 3 touchdowns, 3 field goals. Brock Purdy played yesterday for the 49ers. Looked a little bit shaky. Joshua Dobbs looked really good as the Niners won 16-10 over the Saints.
Yeah, maybe the biggest story is what the heck is going on with Brandon Ayuk? I mean, what are we waiting on? Year 5, year 6 of the contract? Get the guy in camp, get some rapport out there, and get into your regular season, San Francisco. That was a terrible look by them, but it's still the preseason. We understand they're one of the more talented teams in the NFL.
And still a co-favorite to win Super Bowl 59, the 7th annual Little League Classic in Williamsport. But the big leaguers playing at Little League facilities. Not a Little League field, of course, but still. Last night in Williamsport, it was the Tigers walking it off over the Yankees. Parker Meadows, the RBI game winner for Detroit in extra innings in the 10th. 3-2 the final. The 2 teams split the first 2 games of the weekend in the Motor City. Detroit takes the rubber match and the series yesterday at the Little League Classic.
Yeah, by the way, they probably should have played at Lamity Stadium here so we can get some runs in this game. 3-2 after 10 innings, and quite frankly, only had 1 run on the board to the bottom of the 9th inning. It was boring to say the least, but having said that, Detroit picks up the victory. Tough loss for the Yanks, not because they went against Skubal, and it's like, oh, you're supposed to beat him every time, but you had the lead into the 9th inning. You should have closed that game out, didn't, took the loss here. Nice win for Detroit, tough loss for the Yanks.
Jace Young, I believe the younger brother of Texas's Josh Young, the RBI to tie the game up in the top of the 9th, or the bottom of the 9th, rather, against Clay Holmes. 10 blown saves this year. That leads all of the bigs. Elsewhere in the world of sports, plenty MLB recaps from the weekend coming your way a little bit later on. Hideki Matsuyama wins the first leg of the FedEx Cup postseason in Memphis, the St. Jude Championship. 17 under par. Birdied the final 2 holes to save what was a struggle of a Sunday, just even par in his final 18, but his 10th PGA Tour career victory gets the playoffs started for Hideki Matsuyama with a victory.
Yeah, what a roller coaster coming down the stretch because, you can't just take a timeout and head over to the driving range and work out your issues here. Did that on the fly, great holes on 17 and 18, wins the championship, puts a couple $1 million in his pocket, and moves on to round number 2.
Two more legs of the FedEx Cup postseason, the BMW Championship, and it ends at Eastlake in Atlanta with the Tour Championship as well. Stars on display yesterday on a Sunday in the WNBA. Angel Reese, 19 points, 20 rebounds, her 20th career double-double. She's done that in only 27 career games. A'ja Wilson, 34 points and 13 rebounds, her 17th game. A new WNBA record of 20 and 10 this season. And Caitlin Clark, stellar for the Indiana Fever over the Seattle Storm. 23 points, 9 dimes, 5 rebounds. Her second assist of the game gave her the WNBA rookie record for most assists in a debut season.
Yeah, she's doing big things. And also, I was watching that game right up to the third quarter. It's like, oh, this is a close one. Didn't pay attention in the fourth quarter. Saw the Fever absolutely stomped out the Storm. But you're taking a look at Caitlin Clark, back-to-back games over the weekend where she looks absolutely incredible. And one of those teams that you now start to say is, forget about making the playoffs. Can they actually do some damage now in the playoffs? Team looks really good.
We'll look at Olympic basketball quickly here. Now translating to the NBA, Guerschon Yabusele, the star for France, signing with Donnie's Philadelphia 76ers on a one-year deal. And Stephon Gilmore back in the NFL, signing with the Minnesota Vikings for a one-year deal as well. More on the early line comes your way next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
One change in the legislature in Missouri is that this guy who's just totally against sports betting there is not going away.
This has been in progress since last fall. They got 300 and some thousand signatures. All they needed was 170, but those were all certified by local election boards. That had to be done by earlier this month. By tomorrow, the Secretary of State has to verify all those signatures.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Preseason week number 2 all around the National Football League, ending with a doubleheader of Sunday Night Football, getting you primed for what life will be like in just a few weeks. He is Donnie, I am Ben. And one of the stars so far, Donnie, around the National Football League at the quarterback spot this preseason, it's been Denver's Bo Nix, and we expected him to really take the reins of the Broncos right away in the Mile High City. All the experience in college football. 12th overall draft pick in the 2024 NFL Draft's opening round. But what stunned us was Nix being named the third-string quarterback in the initial depth chart entering Denver's preseason opener. Well, Bo Nix has been playing with a chip on his shoulder, getting the start yesterday for the Broncos against the Packers. Just 2 drives but 2 scoring drives once again as Denver hammers Green Bay as a touchdown favorite, 27-2. Bo Nix great. We'll talk about Nix further in just a moment, but the Broncos looking pretty good with all of their quarterbacks at this moment.
And by the way, where did this happen in the preseason, Ben? Like, I'm going to get to Bo Nix in a second, but we used to have 4 preseason games, and it was that rite of passage where game number 1, you get 1 series out of there for the starters. Game number 2, you play a first quarter. Game number 3, you play the first half. Game number 4, nobody plays. It was like that for 20 years. So now we figure that we're going to drop it to 3 games. So you go, oh, you know what? They might not play at all or a lot in week number 1, but week number 2 across the NFL, you're going to get starters for at least a full first quarter, if not a full first half, to get them ready for the season. And game number 3, you won't see them anymore. So really the emphasis to me was, man, game number 2 is actually going to be pretty fun now. How did it go backwards and get even worse with less games now? And the reason I bring that up is case in point, that Packers-Broncos game. Yes, I liked what Bo Nix did. But look on the other side, like half that team that he's playing against won't even be out there. Michael Pratt, Sean Clifford for the quarterbacks for Green Bay, they account for 2 points. But it's just wild to see that. I understand the goal is to get to week number 1, Ben, and don't have any injuries. But also, you know as well as I do, getting those dress rehearsals under your belt, like even the Kansas City Chiefs will throw Patrick Mahomes out there with the starters and say, it's football, you got to play. You can't worry about getting injured. And I understand there's a fraction of a chance that you lose your starting quarterback for the season because he plays 1 quarter in the preseason. But then again, he can get hurt at any time. I know why coaches insulate themselves from that question, but you go through these games and watching so many saying, how do these teams actually get ready? It's just practice. Like, what are we actually doing in the preseason and why do we have these games anymore? Similar to the Pro Bowl. But Bo Nix does look the part. Even though it's against backups, you could tell he's comfortable in the pocket. He's making plays off schedule. He's making the right decision and deserves to be that quarterback. But boy, I would have loved to see Bo Nix go up against, at least for 2 series, the starting defense, or at least, 8 out of the 11 starters on defense for the Green Bay Packers. We didn't get that. So what you take out of the game from Bo Nix, a little bit with a grain of salt, but he does look good.
You know, Donnie, it's a really good point that you bring up as well. Often we focus on just the starting quarterback. Is the quarterback out there? Not even taking into account if the starting quarterback is there, that means the starting running back, the starting offensive line, the starting wide receivers, the starting tight ends are out there for the drive as well. You don't play starters with the reserves who they will not line up with all season long. And that goes for the defense as well. Look at the Packers that recorded minutes and production on the defensive side of the football. It's not the guys that are going to factor into the rotation for new DC Jeff Hafley this year at Lambeau Field. So Bo Nix has looked great. He's looked great in both of his preseason games against Indianapolis and last night in his home debut against the Green Bay Packers. But Donnie's right. He should be taking advantage of these opportunities against reserves if he is going to be a successful starting quarterback in his National Football League career. But last night, Donnie, again, really, really solid. 2 offensive possessions, both culminating in points once again. A field goal on the opening drive, a touchdown toss to the much-maligned Tim Patrick, who has been banged up at the wide receiver spot for the good part of the last 2 years for Denver. 8 of 9 overall, though, for Bo Nix. 80 yards through the air and a touchdown. Again, 6 offensive possessions with Nix under center for the Broncos so far in their first 2 preseason games. All 6 drives have led to points.
Yes, and that's the key ingredient here. You want to end drives with points, not turnovers. But primarily, sometimes you're going to see quarterbacks make some plays off schedule, but making them from the pocket is much more important to me early. Follow your reads. Don't break containment here. And also, you're right about that. Your entire starting lineup is in there for the Broncos going against backups. You're supposed to move the football. That's what you're doing here. But also, from a Broncos standpoint, Stidham played in that game and Zach Wilson played in that game. There's nobody in the right mind, and even Sean Payton can tell you, which he probably will today, haven't made up my mind here is going to be our starting quarterback. It's going to be Bo Nix at this point. Let the kid hit the ground running. He has shown you nothing that he can't take advantage of game time situations. Now, yes, there's going to be starters. There's going to be more pressure in game number 1, 2, and 3 of your pro career. But he looks the part, and that's all you can ask for out of camp. Like, hey, looks like he has a grasp of the offense. He should be good to go. No way you can, oh, you know what? Stidham earned it in preseason or Zach Wilson. Stop it. Bo Nix is your guy. That's your franchise. Move forward with him.
Donnie, I bet Bo Nix's season-long passing yards prop for his rookie campaign before it was taken down after he was listed as the third-string quarterback in the Mile High City. It is not up yet once again, I bet the over of 28.50 and a hook, expecting Knicks to hit the ground running in an offensive-minded system under Sean Payton. Again, the yardage is not up. Bo Nix's number to win Offensive Rookie of the Year grows shorter, now 13-1, still the fourth best price, and Caleb Williams remains a strong and short favorite. Elsewhere, Brock Purdy playing in some preseason action yesterday for San Francisco. The 49ers get a win as a slight underdog. They probably won't be an underdog all season long at home, 16-10 against the Saints. Total of 38.5 stayed under. Not a lot of scoring in week 2 of the preseason, as we will show you, but Purdy did play. Looked a little bit shaky. Had to shake off that rust. 2 of 6 for only 11 yards.
Yeah, and again, we're not worried about Brock Purdy at this point. I don't think anybody's coming into the season like, oh, he's got to prove it to me again. No, he's a capable quarterback at the biggest level. Made the Super Bowl last year, and those Super Bowl aspirations, once again, will be there. It didn't take a lot out of it, but if you're just looking at backup quarterback situations, Brandon Allen, Joshua Dobbs played decent football for the San Francisco 49ers. That's how you win in the preseason. It's not so much about your starter beginning for 1, 2, or 3 series. It's how you're going to close out that second half. Again, one of those games you couldn't take a lot away from. Derek Carr did play in that game, 7 of 9. I'm not too high on the Saints here, so really, the jury is still out. It's one of those where I'm going to have to get a game or two in the regular season to find out what the Saints actually are all about here.
7.5 is the win total for New Orleans. The over has a slight bit of juice, but all right. They had a winning record last year, just could not win the division. More around the preseason in week number 2, up next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
One change in the legislature in Missouri is that this guy who's just totally against sports betting there is not going away.
This has been in progress since last fall. They got 300 and some thousand signatures. All they needed was 170, but those were all certified by local election boards. That had to be done by earlier this month. By tomorrow, the Secretary of State has to verify all those signatures.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Yes, it's just the preseason, but we have some Monday morning reactions to a weekend slate around the NFL live right here on this Monday on the early line on SportsGrid. Almost like preseason for Donnie and myself, because Mondays going forward, a ton of reaction from a Sunday slate around the National Football League. Not so much Sunday, only 2 games that we recap for you in our previous segment, but a ton of games on Saturday. Make that 13 games on this Saturday slate for week number 2 of the NFL preseason. There's some good And then there's some bad, and oftentimes the bad leads to social media conversation around preseason weekends. That was the case in the Steel City on Saturday. Is it a mid-off for the starting quarterback position of the Pittsburgh Steelers between Russell Wilson and Justin Fields? If you have questions about Pittsburgh's offense under new OC Arthur Smith, with whatever quarterback takes the reins, you still have those questions very much unanswered after Saturday. Buffalo wins outright as a 4.5-point underdog, 9-3. No Josh Allen for the Bills, 36.5 the total. It stays well under. Why? Because the Steelers, despite getting 10 combined drives out of both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, only put up 3 points.
Look, I understand it's preseason and you don't want to panic, but let's be honest with ourselves. The Buffalo Bills came to town with Mitchell Trubisky and Ben DiNucci, and you have a starting quarterback battle with Justin Fields, who was a first-round draft pick, and Russell Wilson, who's probably headed to the Hall of Fame when it's all said and done. The Pittsburgh Steelers scored 3 points in that game, which keeping their starters out there for extended periods of time to make sure that both of those quarterbacks have an equal opportunity to start on opening day. The one thing that we saw out of Russell Wilson was that same, I don't want to say undecisive in the pocket. He just doesn't look like the Russell Wilson we're used to seeing here. Understandably, a lot of short dump-offs and checkdowns. You see the completions. Oh, he was 8 of 10. Well, when it's 3rd and 16 and you dump it to the running back for 9 yards, that doesn't do anything for your football team. That's consistently what was happening. And Justin Fields, 11 of 17 for 92 yards, more electric with his legs. So when I watch these games and say, well, I don't know if Justin Fields can pass all that well, but at least it looks like the offense might have a chance to move once Fields gets out of the pocket. I don't get those same notions from Russell Wilson, and I can't wait to see what you're getting from Mike Tomlin this week, because he has told you from day one. It's almost like, I don't care what Russell Wilson looks like, good or bad. I don't care what Justin Fields looks like, good or bad. Russell Wilson is this team's starting quarterback. And for a game that you probably should have put up 28-plus points and really shown out, because these two quarterbacks are fighting with each other, they scored 3 points against the backup on the Buffalo Bills. The Bills look like the better team all the way through. That's a complete embarrassment here for the Steelers. Once again, it's preseason, I get it, but that was a game you were supposed to have a little bit of a showcase between those two guys, and you got nothing.
And the Bills did play their starters defensively. Russell Wilson got 5 drives. He started the game for Pittsburgh. Justin Fields got 5 offensive possessions. He filled in after Russ. If you look at the numbers, Fields was better on Saturday at home in the Steel City. 11 of 17, 92 yards through the air. Not prolific by any means. Was Pittsburgh's leading rusher with those 42 yards utilizing his leg. You have to ask yourself, DRS, what was in the Danger Witch? The Subway signature sandwich that Russell Wilson released entering his first year. It is spicy. Ever since that point, he has not looked like the same Russ who we would say, let Russ cook. Something is a little bit off. Did it move Pittsburgh's odds for their 2024 regular season outlook? No. The win total is still 8.5. The under has the juice at minus 144. 8 wins under Mike Tomlin entering year number 18 feels like a certainty until it is not. But Pittsburgh has overperformed on expectation with consistent success, DRS, in the nearly 2 decades under Tomlin, at least as of late, without much success in production offensively. I have said that either quarterback, Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, is an upgrade at the under center spot, maybe even including the final few years of Big Ben's tenure in the Steel City. I don't really feel that way right now. Matt Canada, much maligned as the OC, fired in the middle of last season. Arthur Smith, not a great head coach in Atlanta, but a good offensive mind, becomes the offensive coordinator. There should be positivity. Instead, there's just question marks out of this preseason Week 2 performance.
No, and there is. And also keep in mind, they have a Saturday 1 o'clock game number 3. Are you telling us that Fields and Wilson won't play? We're happy with what we see. We're going to name a starter for week number 1. These guys should play. I think it might be a viable betting option to take the Steelers in week 3, knowing they probably got to play at least one of those 2 quarterbacks for an extended period.
There's the same betting option this week, and they lost 9-3, but I hear the point more around the preseason next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
One change in the legislature in Missouri is that this guy who's just totally against sports betting there is not going away.
This has been in progress since last fall. They got 300 and some thousand signatures. All they needed was 170, but those were all certified by local election boards. That had to be done by earlier this month. By tomorrow, the Secretary of State has to verify all those signatures.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
By far the highest scoring game of NFL preseason week number 2, Saturday afternoon into the evening hours at Arrowhead, a rematch of the season opener in the regular season in 2023 at the home of the two-time reigning Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, who did play their starters for a good majority of the opening half against the Detroit Lions. No starters on the other side for Detroit, and still the Lions come away with a 1-point victory, 24-23. They also won by a single point in the season opener to start the 2023 campaign. They went outright as a 9.5-point underdog. Andy Reid has always been in favor of playing his starters in the preseason. That's what made this line nearly double digits, but it does go over 39.5. There's a lot we can get into here in just a moment, but the question has to be asked. Where were you when Patrick Mahomes went behind his back in an NFL preseason game? Rolling out to his right, tosses it behind his back to his tight end, Travis Kelce. Depending on who you ask, Mahomes said on the broadcast was not a planned play. Kelce said, what? Not a real, yeah, it was a real play. I knew exactly what was going to happen, although he tried to go with a little bit of a comic fib as well. Regardless, a cool moment in preseason, despite KC falling by a point at home.
Yeah, no doubt that wasn't off the script. Of course, that was going to be on the script on that play there. But again, just to execute that in real time was pretty impressive to watch, and it did work. And having said that, how about Detroit's passing game? Sudfeld and Hooker, 26 of 42 in that game for 342 yards passing. It's wild that big of an upset would take place. But again, it's preseason, not really game planning overall. But having said that, let's look at the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes in midseason form, he's going to be fantastic. We know that. He's great every single year. But you know what I really like from this? Xavier Worthy. He got the rushing yardage, 1 for 11, which means they're going to be willing to use him almost in a Deebo Samuel type role and give him the football a couple times a game, maybe on those reverses. Number 2, him looking so fluid out there, getting open deep. I was watching this going, oh my goodness. Like Henderson is going to be out for a little bit, or Marquise Brown, I should say, is going to be out here for a little bit of time. if we're lining up that team, Rashee Rice even look good early. This is where we go back to last year with the Kansas City Chiefs and said, boy, if they just had more of a wide receiver concept as opposed to a rookie in Rashee Rice. Now Rice enters his second year. I don't know if there's going to be suspensions on the horizon. Who knows? But if they have those three wide receivers healthy for the majority of the season, that's going to be a fun offense for Kansas City. But my total takeaway is Xavier Worthy looks like he could be a really good player in this offense.
Really good player. 19-1 to win the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year award. Again, I don't think anybody's knocking off Caleb Williams if Caleb remains healthy, but still, Xavier Worthy putting on display why the Chiefs were so happy to draft him 28 overall in a trade still with the Buffalo Bills that I will never fully understand. 62 receiving yards, a touchdown, also one carry for 11 yards as well. Andy Reid said that the starters would play for most of the opening half. Still really only 2 offensive drives led by Patrick Mahomes, but resulting in 10 points, 8 of 14 for 93 yards through the air. But again, that's something to pay attention to, right? Andy Reid makes his intentions very well known. Even if you thought KC was going to play their starters for most of the opening half, you look at a first half line. You look at a first quarter line because the Chiefs did lead 13-0 after that opening 15 minutes. So Kansas City looking good as of this moment. Hendon Hooker looking pretty good for Detroit as well after missing most of last year. Now we go to the number 1 overall pick. His home debut in the Windy City in a preseason game. Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. Chicago wins as a touchdown favorite, laying 6.5 at home, 27-3 over the Bengals, staying under 36.5. The Bears have won all 3 of their preseason games. Hall of Fame game that was called midway through the third quarter. Last week in Buffalo, they trounced on the Bills and then beat up the Bengals pretty good on Saturday at Soldier Field. No Joe Burrow, no Jamar Chase, no starters for Cincinnati. Sure, the Bears look pretty good. Caleb looks pretty good for Chicago.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept because if we're just going by like an ESPN analysis and just watching highlights, like, wow, Caleb was fantastic. But when you watch the game, it really wasn't. There was no starters playing outside of maybe a cornerback or two for the Cincinnati Bengals. You had your first 3 drives with the starters and Caleb. Those were 3 and outs here with nothing to gain. Now, you do see the talent on those off-schedule plays that you love to see, but that's not something you're going to be relying on in the NFL against starters. More than likely, you're either going to get yourself injured by running around like that or throwing an interception. You can see the talent is there, but a lot of people got hyped on Caleb Williams from this game. 6 of 13, 75 yards, passer rating of 64. It will be there. They're going to have to gel during the season, but I would like to see a little bit more. Now, granted, week number 3 in the preseason, or 4, should I say, for the Bears, we're not going to see him at all, but you can see the athletic talent is there. Let's just see when we get a true game script to see how that shakes things up. And keep in mind, the first down for Caleb Williams and the Bears came on a reverse, so it wasn't even like he threw like a 13 or 14-yard pass. They just had to get that mojo on the 4th series of that game. We'll see. The jury's out on Caleb. We expect big things and to be a rookie of the year, but I need to see a little bit more, but that's normal for a rookie.
Yeah, he had one play, as Donnie is alluding to. He is so sensational and so talented. Really a distinction among many NFL quarterbacks. Certainly was the case in college. His ability to throw on the run, to improvise and extend plays. He rolled out to his left, threw across his body, downfield strike to Rome Odunze, who is also looking really solid so far in his preseason action for Chicago. Caleb, though, just 6 of 13 for 75 yards, his first rushing touchdown of his NFL career as well. Tyson Bagent in a battle for the backup job for the Bears, 7 of 8 for 87 yards and 2 touchdowns. So Caleb Williams out there on Saturday for Chicago. Jaden Daniels, 2 offensive possessions for Washington. Should have really led to points in both, but a missed field goal out of Riley Patterson, who missed 2 field goals in the opening quarter for the Commanders. Keep an eye on the kicking game for Washington, but Jaden Daniels looks good as well. 10 of 12 DRS for 78 yards in his second preseason NFL game.
I'm very intrigued by him entering into the season. It's not even so much how many wins the Washington Commanders will actually get, but you just see how fluid he is in the running game. When you're going to have that read option chances, like week number 1, I cannot wait to take his rushing prop to the over, because the one thing we know about rookie quarterbacks, if the play breaks down, the more apt to get out of the pocket. But also, if you are the fastest guy on the field, you're probably going to break contain even more. I love his athletic ability. I like that offense here. They surrounded him with a pretty good football team for a rookie season, and I like like the way he's performed here in the preseason so far. Give me those rushing yards, baby, early in the season for my guy, Jaden.
Yeah, so when you look around the NFL as well, Jaden Daniels, good, 10 of 12, as we shared in those two offensive possessions. One game on Thursday, that was between the Patriots and Philadelphia. A couple of offensive drives for Drake May, finally resulting in some points. He also rushed his own touchdown as well, ran in for his own score. Philly did win 14-13. New England playing all four quarterbacks again. Drake May probably looked the most promising for the Pats.
Yeah, I don't know where New England is going with this season. Again,
Yeah,
the Eagles just scroll up there with basically backups. They look like the better football team. At least Drake May showed you some athletic ability. Jacoby Brissett with a horrendous interception in the end zone. Joe Milton, they're like, hey, you know, we saw enough of this. Let's bring in Bailey Zappi to see if we get a win in preseason, as if that care. Like, honestly, what was the point of bringing Bailey Zappi in the end that game here to try to get a victory? Let some of the young guys get out there and spin. This is a bad football team heading into 2024, and my goodness, do you just go with Drake May game number one? Who knows, man?
Lowest win total around the National Football League, 4.5. The over does have a slight bit of juice. Michael Penix Jr., who played a ton in Atlanta's preseason opener, did not play Raheem Morris after the game. Quote, Mike showed us last week that we don't have to play him again in the preseason. See you in 2027, Michael Penix Jr.
Let's keep it simple here on Michael Penix Jr. The whole goal is if he's not going to play the regular season, get as many game reps as you can, because essentially he's going to set out an entire season and maybe even next year. Like, I don't understand this. Unless you think Kirk Cousins is injured and can't start the season, you can't risk injury to Penix. What are we doing, Atlanta? I mean, come on.
One of the stories of this preseason weekend, Saturday in Houston, Daniel Jones. 2 interceptions, and it looked bad for New York. MLB weekend recaps next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
One change in the legislature in Missouri is that this guy who's just totally against sports betting there is not going away.
This has been in progress since last fall. They got 300 and some thousand signatures. All they needed was 170, but those were all certified by local election boards. That had to be done by earlier this month. By tomorrow, the Secretary of State has to verify all those signatures.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Let's go around Major League Baseball from the weekend that was. We start with a battle between the two top teams in each of the central divisions around MLB. That's the Milwaukee Brewers from the National League Central, the Cleveland Guardians from the American League Central. And this series, this game on Sunday, really indicative of the overall year in MLB, as we will lay out, because Cleveland entered the weekend the top team in the American League, battling for the best record in all of the bigs. They got swept by the Brewers in Wisconsin. The Brew Crew winning the finale 2-0 yesterday over Cleveland. Colin Ray has been great, and he's been bad after getting shelled by the Dodgers last week to the tune of 7 earned runs. Yesterday, 7 innings of scoreless work, only allowing 2 base knocks. He and 2 other relievers for Milwaukee combined for a 2-hit shutout over those innings against the Guardians as Milwaukee wins 2-0 in the finale. They complete the series sweep over Cleveland.
Milwaukee now has an 11-game lead in the NL Central.
Yeah.
It was one of those where like, oh, we don't know what Milwaukee's going to do. They just lost Yelich. They go sweep the Cleveland Guardians, who are a very good opponent. Now, each one of these teams, Milwaukee and Cleveland, now have 72 wins. And as you said on this Major League Baseball season, we take a look at pitchers like Colin Ray. Good, bad, good, bad. It's just almost like that's baseball is all you could say. But the Cleveland Guardians looked like they were sliding away, regained their footing, and now get swept by the Milwaukee Brewers. It's just an unbelievable scene on what you're getting from a series-to-series, day-to-day basis in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
But this has always been the MO of the Milwaukee Brewers. How are they going to win baseball games? 4-2, 3-1, 2-1. 2-0, as you saw yesterday. I still don't know what to think because the Philadelphia Phillies are floundering out here. The Dodgers playing decent baseball. Like, could Milwaukee actually take control and be the number 1 overall seed in the major leagues? I mean, honestly, they could do that. They're getting quality pitching, a decent lineup overall, and a bullpen while other teams are floundering. They're playing well. And again, where did that lead go from like 4 or 5 games to 11? They're playing great baseball, the Brewers.
Well, the Cardinals, as we'll show you in just a moment, lost this weekend set against the Dodgers. Everybody else in the National League Central at this moment below 500. That was not always the case, but we are seeing the Reds swept by the Royals this weekend. The Cubbies slide as well. We have talked about Pittsburgh's much maligned start to the month of August. Now it's deeper into August than you even realize. But, Donnie, again, when you look at this weekend, Milwaukee is now 72-52. The Guardians now 72-52 as well. The Brew Crew, an 11-game lead in the National League Central. The Guardians in danger of really giving up their lead atop the American League Central. The Twins took 3 of 4. The Rangers walked it off against Minnesota yesterday, but Minnesota taking 3 of 4 in their weekend set against Texas. They're only 2 games back. Kansas City playing good baseball here since the All-Star break, sweeping Cincinnati on the road in the Great American Ballpark this weekend. They're only 3 games back of that top spot in the division when it seemed that last week the Guardians were starting to extend their divisional advantage. But again, Cleveland 72-52. Milwaukee 72-52. The best record in Major League Baseball at this moment, the Phillies 73-51, a full game up over Milwaukee. The Dodgers in the middle, 73-52, half game in front of the Brewers, half game behind Philadelphia. And Donnie, that's the most wins in MLB. 73. You do the math. 73-52. That right there is 125 games. We are coming up on about 35 games for most clubs around MLB remaining this week. So you're thinking, all right, how do we get to 100 wins if the best record in baseball features 73 victories right now with only about 35 games and change remaining this year? You would have to play such substantial winning baseball down the stretch. There's a chance we do not see a single team in the bigs get to the century mark.
Yeah, usually, and again, it's hard to win baseball. I understand that. Like 2 out of 3 games in a series against a bad baseball team, that's what you can expect. You can never expect, series sweeps all the time, good versus bad. But the Phillies, who do lead baseball with a .589 winning percentage, like put that into like layman's terms. The best baseball team wins 5.8 games out of 10. Like, shouldn't it be much higher? The 7 out of 10, 6.5 games out of 10, not even 6 out of 10, which is kind of crazy to see. So we are headed for a collision course down the stretch, which adds to a lot of fun and a lot of pressure for some of these teams. Like, even in the American League, Orioles and Yankees tied. Guardians only a 2-game lead.
Yeah.
The Astros, it seems like insurmountable now, a 4-game lead, but each one of those series is going to be very much up for grabs as you head down the stretch. The National League, Braves 7 back of the Phillies, the Cardinals 11 back of the Brewers, and then you have that great race in the West. So really, our focal points on some of those leaders in the AL would be fun to watch it coming down the stretch. But to your point, we don't have that runaway freight train that you might have thought day number 1, season 1 here to start the season was the Los Angeles Dodgers. How many wins? 105, 110, 115. They're built for it here. I don't know if anybody's going to get to that 100-yard mark, because if we're looking at the end of the season, what happens if you're up 3 or 4 games with 3 or 4 games to go? You'll probably end up on a 2 to 3 game losing streak, just setting your rotation for the playoffs here. It'll be interesting to see if we do get a 100-win ball club.
And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the Dodgers' preseason win total was 102 and a hook, not just because of what seemed like a super team in L.A., but the Dodgers in the last 4 full regular seasons in MLB have won at least 100 games in all 4. Again, I'm not sure we're going to get a 100-game winner at any point around any of the 30 clubs in Major League Baseball. From ESPN's Jeff Passett, I saw this stat last night. Because of those teams battling for the top spot, but probably not to the century mark. The last time we did not have a 100-game winner out of a team in an MLB regular season, now 10 years ago in 2014. The Dodgers, though, 73-52, a rubber match yesterday under the arch in St. Louis. And if you're looking for positivity in L.A., Clayton Kershaw's month of August has been that. 2 consecutive wins and a great outing yesterday for Kershaw. 6 innings of work, 4 hits, 0 runs given up, striking out 2. The Dodgers were a slight underdog in St. Louis. They take the rubber match and win the weekend set.
Yeah, because not a lot of people trusting just yet Clayton Kershaw, but looks like he's rounding into form and looking like the Clayton Kershaw of old that's going to give us quality starts. Sonny Gray, losing effort, 5 innings pitched, 2 earned runs. Look, he's not going to get any better than that against the Dodgers. And by the way, 2 hits out of Betts, 3 hits out of Lux, 3 hits out of Rojas yesterday, did most of the damage. Low-scoring game here, but the Dodgers will certainly take that.
Plenty more about Major League Baseball from the weekend that was. Comes your way up next, live right here on the Early Line on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
One change in the legislature in Missouri is that this guy who's just totally against sports betting there is not going away.
This has been in progress since last fall. They got 300 and some thousand signatures. All they needed was 170, but those were all certified by local election boards. That had to be done by earlier this month. By tomorrow, the Secretary of State has to verify all those signatures.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
You figured at some point the teams from the National League West, not named the Dodgers, who were contending for a playoff spot, would have to cool down following the All-Star break. It happened this weekend. The Diamondbacks entered the weekend in Tampa, winning 6 straight games, 20-5 since the All-Star break. They got swept by the Rays, twice getting walked off in the opener on Friday, in the series finale yesterday on a Sunday in 12 innings, 8-7. Dylan Carlson, the walk-off single for the Rays in the bottom of the 12th. The Rays holding on. They led 6-0 entering the 7th inning. Arizona did storm back. Corbin Carroll was good this weekend. The Rays, though, walk it off against Arizona. So 6 straight wins entering the weekend at the Trop. Now 3 straight losses after getting swept by the Rays.
Yep, you're going to have those ups and downs, and certainly playing in a building like Tampa Bay down in the Trop doesn't really exude a lot of enthusiasm here, and certainly didn't have a lot. But how about this? How many baseball games are going to lose if you score 1 in the 7th, 2 in the 8th, 3 in the 9th, and 1 in the 10th, only to get beat 8-7? Key ingredient here, don't get down 6-0 to start a Major League Baseball game. And also, tough on the psyche, too. Not playing good, like, okay, looks like we're going to lose this game. Let's get a lot of energy back. We're in it. Hey, guys, we can steal this, only to lose that game in 12 innings. That's tough there. Nice win for Tampa Bay, who now, again, over 500 and maybe still looking at a wild card spot. Man, you can't put these teams away. When they're ready to be folded off and sent out, you just can't see it because they always come back to life, and here come the Rays.
And the Arizona Diamondbacks still very comfortably in a wild card spot around the National League in the second spot with a 2.5-game advantage over Atlanta. The Braves in that third and final spot. The Padres still in that top spot up over Arizona. But San Diego loses the weekend against the Colorado Rockies as the Rocks win yesterday 3-2. The Little League Classic yesterday in Williamsport. A great pitcher's duel in Williamsport between Tarek Skubal for Detroit. Marcus Stroman, 6 innings of shutout work on the other side for New York, but it's Parker Meadows who walks it off in extras to give the Tigers the victory in Williamsport and the series victory over New York. 3-2, Detroit takes the win.
Yeah, Skubal was great. 6 innings pitched, 1 earned run, only 5 strikeouts. And I say only because you usually expect him to get up around that 7, 8, or 9 number. Also danced around 4 walks in that game. But that's a good win for Detroit. We're not saying they're going to make the playoffs, but this is a game I thought the Yankees were going to win, not only from the jump where it looks like Detroit was dead in the water at the plate, but you're down 1-0 late against a quality bullpen and to have that victory, and not necessarily in your home ballpark. Neutral sites for both teams here, ends up in a Detroit victory. Tough loss for the Yanks. They should have closed that one out, though.
Low-scoring games all weekend. The first 2 were in the Motor City. The Pinstripes winning Game 1 on Friday 3-0. Detroit responding to split the 2 games in Detroit with a 4-0 victory on Saturday in a great pitcher's duel. Tarek Skubal now minus 600 to win the American League Cy Young Award. Clay Holmes was great to start this year. Has had plenty of opportunities to close out games. Blew the lead yesterday. Again, Jace Young, the younger brother of Josh Young for Texas, called up this weekend for the Tigers. Had that game-tying RBI in the home half of the 9th. 10 blown saves for Holmes this year. That is the most in all of Major League Baseball. The Yankees still tied for the best record in the American League and atop the American League East at 73 and 52 because the O's split a 4-game set against Boston yesterday. The Orioles victorious in the 4th and final game. Gunnar Henderson hits his 33rd home run of the year. Again, tied at the top. 73 and 52, the Yankees and the Orioles, not just for the best record in the American League East, the best mark as of this moment all around the AL.
Yeah, I thought we'd get a little bit better performance hitting-wise between both of these ball clubs, but also Suarez on the mound improves the 6-4 on the season. Phenomenal performance. 6 innings pitched, 7 hits, scattered them around. No earned runs, no walks, and 6 strikeouts. That's pretty clean in 99 pitches. And Crawford, who hasn't been that great this season, was average 5 1/3 innings pitched and 3 earned runs. That's a good win for the Baltimore Orioles here. But again, I expected more offense out of both of these ball clubs yesterday. If you're by the way, just simple here. The Orioles won, Ben.
Yeah.
0 for 3 with runners in scoring position. Okay, hit a couple home runs, do some damage. The Boston Red Sox scored 2 runs, 1 for 14 with runners in scoring position. That's a terrible way to lose a ball game.
And pay attention to the American League wildcard race. Boston now back by 3.5 games. KC sweeping Cincinnati this weekend with a run differential in all 3 games of 28-3. The Royals now the second best run differential, only behind the Yanks in all of MLB. Houston stays hot. They win the weekend set against Chicago, as you would expect. 4-game advantage for the Astros in the American League West. And Framber Valdez, strong yesterday for Houston. The Astros have won the last 10 games that Valdez has started. He has won 8 of those 10. Hour number 2 comes your way next, live right here on the Other Line.